Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today I will be watching another video that is related to someone leaving Islam. So this video titled "How to Make an Ex-Muslim in 15 Minutes" in bracket David Wood. So I'm not sure what is the content will be about. So I think we'll just go and watch the video.
If you were following me on Facebook a few years ago, there was a period of 5 or 6 weeks when I was posting daily comments from people who had just left Islam. I would skim through all of my YouTube comments every morning and take screenshots of the ones that said, "Hey, I just left Islam after watching your videos." Just by going through my YouTube comments, I was able to post anywhere from 1 to 3 messages a day from new ex-Muslims. I couldn't keep that up very long because going through all of my YouTube comments was pretty time consuming. It would be impossible now because I'm getting way more views. So I don't see most of my YouTube comments now, but I still see lots of comments from ex-Muslims. One of the things I find really interesting is when someone leaves Islam almost instantly. That's rare. If you've been trained all your life to believe that Muhammad is the greatest man who ever lived and that the Quran is filled with amazing scientific knowledge, it usually takes a while to undo the indoctrination.
Okay, of course I'm a Muslim, so I do not believe that it is indoctrination. What's the word? Indoctrination. Yeah. like a brainwashing thing, etc. Because we believe it is the truth and we discuss the truth. However, I do understand the context of the what he said, because if you truly believe something because it is based on certain foundation, right? So say you see the Quran with its mu'jizat, etc. To undo that, for you to suddenly leave that and say, this is no longer the truth, or this is never have been the truth, it would never be something that instantaneous. Like similarly, about your belief that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of God, the man of the highest character, etc. Unfortunately, if you ask many Muslim, I think, unfortunately, I would say majority of Muslims do not have both things, meaning that they have never been introduced to the Quran in a way that lead to that conclusion, lead to that conviction, lead to that belief, right? Evaluate and see how it is a mu'jizat, how it is a miracle. Most Muslim, if you ask, I don't know, 100 Muslims, I think 99, 98 would say they have never been introduced to the Quran as such. Most Muslims know how to read the Quran within tajweed, etc. We never really go deep dive into the tafsir, into the linguistic discussion, etc. Right? So that's so unfortunate, because I'm not at all surprised if anyone can just I leave Islam, a'udzubillah min zalik, like that, because from the very beginning they are not being, how to say, supplied with the foundation to end up to say, this is the truth. I still remember when I was a university student, still, just going through life according to the norm as usual, right? We are Muslim, we grow up in a Muslim community, we just follow the flow. But this person, a bit senior than me, said this. He mentioned a date, and he said that is the day that I choose to be Muslim. Meaning that he was born in a Muslim family, but he said it is different when you actually evaluate, study, etc. until you come to the conclusion, no doubt, this is the truth. Then before that, when you just go through life, just believe this is the truth. Because why? Because Ustaz says so. There's nothing else to think about. It's totally different. And from that day on, I think my mindset towards this, all of this changed, in the sense that I need to understand, I need to be convinced before I can say this is the truth. Because it is truly your, how to say, your nasib, right? Your future there in the hereafter, right? Because they are claiming they have the truth, they are claiming they have the truth, we claim we have the truth, but all of the three, if you just coincidentally you were born there, coincidentally you were born there, coincidentally you were born here, then you just brought up in that religion. So it's just like who coincidentally get the truth, who coincidentally got the falsehood, right? So you can never resolve that unless you actually evaluate things, right? So I think we should do that. Unfortunately, it's not the norm.
But every once in a while, you see someone who leaves Islam in 15 minutes or less. I was speaking just outside of Baltimore a few years ago. This was when Nabil was vlogging about his battle with cancer. A woman came up to me and asked if I could give a book to Nabil. Then she told me I should meet her husband, who was a former Muslim. So her husband came over. They were an African-American couple. He still had an Islamic beard, and they told me that she spent years trying to show him that Islam is false and that Christianity is true. She would watch Nabil's videos and my videos, and then she would go share what she learned with her husband. He eventually left Islam and became a Christian. Now, before some of you young Christian ladies get any brilliant ideas about marrying a Muslim and converting him, I have to point out that this is one of the only times I've ever seen this situation work out well. Well over 99% of the stories I've heard about a Christian woman marrying a Muslim man ended in disaster. But this one...
Not sure what he meant by disaster. Is it physical disaster or from the perspective of, I think he's a Christian, disaster meaning that the woman left Christianity to Islam? I'm not sure what's the context there.
Had a happy ending. The man became a Christian. Then he said to her,
so that's the happy ending, so I think it's about the religion of choice.
I have to tell my brother about this. He and his brother had been raised by parents who had converted to Islam back in the 1960s when it was somewhat popular in the African American community to convert to Islam. What was the message that Muslim preachers preached to convince African Americans to convert to Islam? As always, Islam was adapted for a specific audience. Christianity is the white man's religion. Christianity enslaved the black man. Islam liberates the black man. Muhammad abolished slavery. Convert to Islam and stick it to whitey. Lots of African Americans converted.
Okay, I have no knowledge about how true that is in terms of whether that was the message that Muslim brought to the African American, I think, to convert them, or that is I don't know. I do not know the details on that, so I cannot comment on that.
Unfortunately, most Muslim sources hadn't been translated into English, so there was no way for people to know if that message was correct. Fast forward to today, when we have open access to Islam's most trusted sources. The young ex-Muslim I met in that church near Baltimore told his wife, I have to tell my brother about this. His wife replied, whatever you do, don't send him any David Wood videos. You're just going to make him mad. He said, no, I have to. So he sent his brother a link to my video, Muhammad, the White Prophet with Black Slaves. If you haven't seen it, the video is about Muhammad's companions bragging that he was the whitest prophet in history, and about Muhammad buying, owning, selling, and trading black African slaves, and about Muhammad saying that Satan looks like a black man, and about the Sharia ruling that anyone who calls Muhammad black is to be executed. You know, all the stuff Muslim preachers didn't bother to tell African Americans when they were trying to convince them to convert to Islam.
Have you heard any of those?
So that's the video the man sent to his brother. His brother called him that night and said, I'm out of Islam. How did that happen so quickly? Again, this is rare, but it happens. Here's a comment from a recent video in which I was blasting away at Muhammad for being one of the sickest, most depraved men in history. I was a Muslim 15 minutes ago, but now I ain't. Why do some people leave Islam instantly while others take months or years? The key feature of someone who leaves Islam quickly seems to be that he has one main reason for believing in Islam, but he's never been given any solid evidence for that reason, so that once this one main reason is smashed to pieces with source after source after source right in front of his face, there's nothing else keeping him in Islam.
Fundamentally, I would have to agree there, in the sense that if you are Muslim, or if you are a person of any religion for that matter, you really don't have any foundation to back your meaning. Why do you conclude that this is the truth and I really want to be in this faith, right? If you don't have any solid reason and any foundation and any evidence, then you are, unfortunately, that's the norm for Muslim, I think. That is why most Muslim majority country, they fan off, right? They do not want this cause to happen, if you understand. Now, I'm not saying I'm against protecting the Muslim, because in Malay we also have the saying that, oh, their iman is so fragile. If you just, meaning, there's two things there. One is, okay, if you truly believe this is the truth and those people are on the truth, but so on a fragile foundation, you have to protect them. What to do, right? But the main issue is how did it end up like that? That's the big issue that I think we have to discuss. How it end up like that when you have the solid foundation to conclude this is the truth. Because once you know that, and once that is clear, it is like when people, because most of this attack is quite easy to unwrap and then address. But if you are not, if your mind have never been trained to do so, I do not know, then yeah, it's sad.
So, when a Muslim is raised to believe that Islam is the religion for the black man and that Muhammad abolished slavery, he's never been given any actual evidence for these claims because there is none. If you come along all of a sudden, giving him source after source after source, showing him that Muhammad was white and that he bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves, and that his followers institutionalized black African slavery 1,000 years before the United States even existed, you've just shattered his case for Islam. And when a Muslim is going through this, you can see the impact that the sources are having on him. You give the first source, and he dismisses it. Maybe it's out of context. Then you give another, and it's, well, I'll have to ask my imam about this. Then you give another, and another, and another, until he can't deny what he's seeing. Then it suddenly dawns on him. My leaders told me one thing about Islam, but they never actually gave me any sources. This man is giving me sources, and my prophet, and my book, and my God are saying the exact opposite of what my leaders told me all my life. This means that my leaders are liars. But I based my faith in Islam on what they told me, and they're liars. I'm done with this religion. Or someone is told all his life that Muhammad was the greatest man who ever lived. But what evidence was he given for this claim? None. He just heard it a bunch of times. Then you show up and prove from his most trusted sources that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, and that he took the ex-wife of his own adopted son after causing the divorce by lusting after her, and that he had 9 wives at one time, even though the Quran only allows 4, and that he would have sex with all 9 of his wives in one night, but only take 1 bath, and that he got caught having sex with his slave girl, and that he beat his wives, and that he encouraged his followers to beat their wives, and that he allowed his followers to hire prostitutes, and that he allowed his followers to rape their female captives, and that he was a caravan robber, and that he ordered his followers to kill people for criticizing him, and that he beheaded hundreds of Jews, and that he tortured people for money, and that he originally thought he was demon-possessed, and that he tried repeatedly to commit suicide, and that he admittedly delivered revelations from the devil, and that he admittedly was a victim of a magic spell that gave him delusional thoughts and false beliefs, and that he was constantly covered in semen, and that he sucked on little boys' tongues. And suddenly, that Muslim gets a panicked look on his face as he too realizes that his leaders lied to him all his life.
I remembered watching a video that mentioned many of those, right? And but it is not in this way, right? Because in this way, I think most Muslim will falter. I think because they have never heard of it, and it become a shocking thing, and they do not have anything to grasp on, and you know, everything is shattered, right? Because they have never been exposed to the hadith, etc. I think unfortunately many Muslims are like that. So when they are being presented of any of this, some of those you can find in the hadith, in meaning the text indicates something happened, but the way that is being presented, and then I'm not sure what type of fallacy it is. Is it loaded question or something? When you compile something that actually you can answer one by one, but before you can answer, they compile everything. So it seems like the evidence is so overwhelming, right? So that's I think some debater is very good at it, right? Because from the spectator, they cannot decipher that, right? Because it seems like, oh my god, there's so many things that these people cannot answer. I still remember one time when one person gave me 20 things, right? A list of 20 things. So okay, I said I will address that. I address one. It does take study because I want to be textually correct, etc. So okay, collect the evidence, blah blah blah. Took so many hours, and then presented one case that takes hours. Second case take hours. It is conclusively addressed one by one. After 4 out of 20, I said, okay, if this is addressed as such, it is clearly can be answered one by one. So my question is the credibility of those who make this compilation, you can trust this person or not? Because evidently everything is taken out of context. Evidently they twist the facts into a certain, how to say, a perception, you know, you manipulate the perception, etc. So if you have someone who do this, and evidently it's clear he done that to make something looks as if it is this way, when the text actually says this way and you can understand it clearly, then for me the credibility of those the people, the person that brings along all of this point is already shattered. And why should I consider everything else? But what that person said, look, he can only answer 4. There's only other 16 that he cannot answer. So even though he can answer 4, that's just 4. This 20, this 16 others is so the manipulation of, especially it doesn't affect us or me that knows the thing, right? But from the perspective of those who do not know anything, unfortunately they are not being exposed to this type of things that is being discussed, and is there any answer, look into it, etc. It can really shatter their foundation and they can just fall, unfortunately. So that's among the things that I wonder from Muslim perspective, right? Are we really giving, because normally I can understand the fear, right? If we discuss this, can they understand this? Can they comprehend? This is quite complex to discuss, right? So just leave him be, right? But when you do that, he is not prepared for any type of attack like this that can easily be addressed one by one. Of course, in a debate, that's why I do not like debate, because it's not a mood of, okay, you want to understand, let's discuss and we can understand one by one. But the intention is not that. The intention is to make you look like you defeated, right? So regardless of where the truth is, I want to show that I'm having the truth. I don't want to listen to your answer anyway. I just, that's a technique of that. I'm not a debater, so I'm not good at it. But I know I've watched debate, and that's why I do not like debate format. I like to watch, but I do not like to be involved, because even if I have the truth, because I'm such a lousy at debating, the truth will not shine, right, unfortunately. So yeah, if you are a Muslim, if you listen to that, right, how many of that, of course some of that is just pure, like, kill how many number of Jews. When you say it like that without any proper context, for example, you take Khaybar or meaning what's the Qainuqa, etc. If you know the seerah, you know the things, you know what happened, why, etc., right? So it doesn't bother you. But if you have never heard of it, you have never learned seerah in detail, what happened, did that happen, did some, so yeah, so I can understand how many Muslim, if they are exposed to this, their foundation can be shattered, because they have no foundation at all to begin with, unfortunately. And that's why I think the critical discourse should be there from the very beginning, right? I remember Ustaz Hasrizal, when he shared about, because he is in Finland still, I think, and one of his children is growing up there, going to school there, etc., with friends there. So he come back with some critical question that normally in Muslim majority country, the kids are not exposed to that question, or do not even think. So for example, he said, can we have two religions? Why can't we? Are Muslim prepared to answer that question? Are Muslim kids prepared to answer that question? Because I think from the very beginning, they do not understand why they are Muslim, except, well, we are born in a Muslim family, just go with it, right? So that's not even a good foundation to begin with, right? No Sahaba is like that, because all the Sahaba become a Muslim as they are convinced, right? They when they say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I bear witness, I become the witness for the thing that I truly convinced of, right? So they do not even need to be taught how to say the Shahada. They straight say, I bear witness, Ashhadu. For us now, it's totally different. We have to, okay, say I bear witness. I'm not saying, okay, that verse need to be changed, anything, but we are not, I think if you are as Muslim, going to the first thing that I shared early on in the video, right, that senior that asked me, do you know the date when you actually choose to be Muslim? I think any Muslim who see this video, you have to ask yourself, if that has not yet happened to you, you have not actually intentionally, and what's the word, what's the word, with conscience, with the word slip my mind, but if you have never actually go to the point until you say, okay, now I'm totally convinced, I choose to be Muslim today, right? If you have never had that moment yet, you have some work to do, honestly speaking, because you cannot live your life just it seems like the truth, right? So just follow that's not the way to live as a Muslim.
He thinks for a while, then says, I was a Muslim 15 minutes ago, but now I ain't. Again, this is rare. If you have a Muslim friend and you want to show him that Muhammad was a false prophet, you should be thinking long term, months or years. But if you ever notice that your Muslim friend only has one particular reason for believing in Islam, and you see that he has no real evidence for his belief, you might want to start stockpiling sources, Quran quotes, Hadith passages, and once you've built an arsenal against that one particular reason, sit down with your friend and say, can I have just 15 minutes of your time?
Oops. Yeah, so interesting, right? Many things to think about. Many things that he have said that actually we need to do discussion on that and really address it. Especially, I do think that some Muslim that watch this do not even know how to answer all those things, right? But the thing is about this can be flipped to any people of religion, right? The very reason why Muslim that spread Islam, do da'wah to Christian specifically, there's a lot of success story that they can bring the Christian to Islam because of the same thing, because they are being a Christian just because one thing, and then when that is being dismissed, there's no longer foundation there, then it's easy to shift, right? So I think it is this is an assumption because I have never done study on it, but I do think that the majority of people of religion in this world, any religion, is like that. I think so. I think the people who are end up at that particular religion of them after years of studies and analyzing and scrutinizing blah 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 is so much a minority in any of the group. This is what I think. Hence, if you go to any particular people of religion, that's why you can see this is true to Muslim as well as a Christian, I think. Even though they claim to be part of that religion or faith, their action is not so much complying with that religion. For example, Muslim, but at the same time, okay, they do things saying, isn't this, shouldn't you do this? Meaning, you shouldn't do this as Muslim, right? Yeah, but this one also you shouldn't do it. Yeah, but so we have those, a lot of those, right? That is, I think, a hint that indicates that, yeah. So anyway, I think there's a lot of things to do. We have so little time and so many things to do, right? Allahu Alam, I think this is the end of this video, because I'm thinking actually there are things that I do really need to talk about, to share, because I think some people do not know that how to make it possible, how to find time, right? Make dua, inshallah. Hopefully we can do this, and any of you actually who know how to explain things that are critical, that are complex, that are, you know, not normally talk about, but is important going forward, because you can no longer, you know, shut off information, right? Our kids will know everything. They can access any information they want. So if we are not preparing them to answer, you know, questions, not brainwashing them, but really give the answer, because that's the best way forward, I think. Because if you have the answer, you have the answer. What's the problem, right? Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.